Welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard. I'm Mike, just Mike, and along with me is Ron, just Ron. And Ron, I think you misspelled your name on the last post. Just noticed that. But speaking of
I
mistakes,
didn't spell moron correctly.
yeah, you missed that one. But we now you'll see it if you go back and look. It said something like Mike and Tim or
Oh,
something.
okay.
You forgot your
Like
name.
anybody knows who I am anyway.
You forgot your name. The so anyway, the first we want to start off. We're going to talk about our memories of the Olympics, growing up with the Olympics, and it was a lot bigger deal when we were growing up, I think, than it is now.
I think
Just
so
because
too. Yeah.
only three channels, and when the Olympics were on, that was basically the only thing to watch because the ratings at that point were incredibly high, and nobody counter programmed, so it was nothing but reruns on the other networks. So the whole world, at least the United States, was watching just about everything that happened.
I know we
But
would sit there and watch like whitewater canoeing and stuff, man.
that's exactly what I was going to talk about. I actually got very fond of whitewater canoeing, just watching the competition on the
I
Olympics.
don't
And I
think they
don't,
do it anymore.
they may not,
Yeah.
I'm sure they do it. It's just not in the Olympics.
Mhm.
And, but but before we get into that, we want to talk about last week's show a little. We got a comment, and our first comment. We got 3 listeners and 1 commenter, and we were talking about Cowboys, and I had said that Matt Dillon's horse was an Appaloosa, and I was wrong, and I could have sworn, as Les Nessman said, "As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly." I thought that
You know,
Matt
equine
Dillon's.
experts that we are.
Yes, that's right. Well, I thought he had the Appaloosa spots. That
Yeah.
Matt Dillon's horse had the
Mhm.
Appaloosa spots around the back half of his body, across his rump
Mhm.
and down his legs, but he did not. I just dreamed that somehow. But he's not, as far as his coloring, an Appaloosa. But Matt Dillon's horse was a buckskin, or is known as a buckskin. He's got tan coloring with black or really dark hair and tail, which is exactly what Matt's horse looks like.
Yeah.
And Ron, I got inspired by that comment and the information I found out, and did a little more reading. And maybe you knew this: Matt Dillon and Lauren Green on Bonanza, Paul Cartwright, Ben Cartwright, they rode the same horse.
The same type horse or the exact
No,
same horse?
no, the same horse.
Oh, okay.
And Bonanza and Gunsmoke were on. It had some years in common,
Yeah.
several in fact, and so I guess they had to kind of schedule the
Yeah.
buckskin horse, who, by the way, his official name wasn't Buck, but everybody called him Buck, and that was. But both, and I don't know why. I guess why would we not at least suspect that? Were we naive? Did we think everybody just had their own horse and
I guess
nobody else
so.
ever
Well,
rode it?
I mean, horses. I mean, just all animals have a certain personality, but you only really know that if you know the horse. So, I mean, who would know? I mean, because so many animals look alike. They do.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You know.
That's true. They could have been. Anyway, they were the same horse. And here's another one. Lauren Green, after he left Bonanza and after Gunsmoke was over, he was concerned that Buck might meet an untimely end or not be treated properly, or he had some concerns about it.
Yeah.
And Lauren Green bought the horse, bought Buck, the buckskin horse that he and James Arness shared, and he donated him to some kind of a therapy farm where
Yeah.
kids and maybe adults went out and interacted with the animals, and horses are particularly featured on these kind of farms. And you won't believe this, is according to the information I have, the horse Buck, ridden by Matt Dillon and Ben Cartwright, lived to be 45 years old, which is an incredible age. I'd be glad to have, I was glad to get to 45. And
Yeah.
so
Horses are really glad he's
so
45.
thanks for the comment. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
I would have answered it in the comments there on YouTube, but you have the power to do that, Ron. I don't. So, and you were just, screw that guy. I appreciated his comment though, and I'm sure you did. You just didn't have time, right?
I just, when I see stuff, sometimes I will. Now it's like, I didn't know the answer. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I'm gonna make a mistake, but as they often say, on to the Olympics. We're going to talk about memories that we have of the Olympics, and I don't know what stands out. What stands out when you think about the Olympics, Ron?
Well,
I mean, they just finished up.
the first thing I was going to do was I had something queued up here because they don't play this theme anymore, and this was always my favorite. The
There we
old
go.
ABC theme with Jim
Yeah,
McKay and you know,
yeah.
because I think it's better than the. That just sounds, you know,
It does have a majesty
you know,
to it. And by the way, I do
just
have a
to be
song on the
slightly
lead.
offensive, as Fred Sanford would say.
Get your hands on the Toyota.
The
Go.
you know what I remember about it, and we've already alluded to
Oh,
it.
sorry.
You just can't shut that song up once it gets started. But what I remember about it is just years ago, and you had 3 networks, and the Olympics came on in the summer. It was the only game in town. It was they didn't try to program against it, as we've already said, and everybody watched it. When you got to work the next day, people were like, they weren't like, "Did you watch the Olympics?" They were more like, "Did you see this happen on the
Yeah.
Olympics, or did you see that happen on the Olympics, or I didn't know they had that event." And it was just highly
Right.
viewed, and people learned a little, and we saw some pretty amazing things.
I think more so now that they tend to concentrate a lot more on the American athletes, or at least they did in the most recent ones, which
Right.
I didn't like that as much. I liked kind of seeing everything. And I remember, and back in the day, like the first one I ever remember seeing was
Right.
72 that I remember. And
Right.
during that time, the USSR, now known as Russia, for the
Right.
youngsters, and Japan were huge men's gymnastic rivals.
Right.
And, that was always a big deal. And it came down to like just hundreds of a point every time. And I
Yep.
always remember this one guy. I've tried to look his name up, can't find a clip of it, but I remember it so well. They really needed some points on the rings, and this one guy had sustained a leg fracture.
We'll call him
But they
Ringo.
needed him on the rings, and
Mhm.
boy, they lifted him up there, and and he was
Oh,
doing a
that's
great
right.
job. And I remember the announcers going, "Oh boy, he's going to have to stick this landing, but he's got that leg injury." And dude flipped out of those rings and stuck it, man. Stuck both those feet down, but he lifted that one foot, and was gritting his teeth and came back. It was
Then
awesome.
they took him out and shot him because of that
Yeah.
broken leg.
But it was one of those things where,
Yeah. No.
where when you're
Now,
watching, it didn't matter, if it was your country or whatever. It was so cool.
sometimes.
I remember
Yeah.
we were watching it and just going like, yeah,
Well,
it was great.
had a moment like that in this last Olympics. We're not
Mhm.
going to talk too much about this last one, but I don't know if you saw the mixed 4x4 where the men and women run together on the.
I saw one of the prelims. I didn't see the final. I missed the final.
Well, in the final, Femke Bowl of Norway, maybe Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
ran the anchor leg for not
Yeah.
America.
Mm-hmm.
And the American team was leading, and the American team did end up getting the silver medal.
Yeah.
But Ball passed like 3 people in the straightaway and caught the American. And by the time when she starts, when you become aware of her,
Yeah.
you start looking back. You go, "Oh gosh, look at that Femke Ball." That's weird.
Yeah.
I can't remember the country, but I can remember her name. And look at her go. I think it was Norway. And she passes everybody, and she nips the American. And by the time she gets to the American, you're kind of pulling for her because
Yeah.
what a comeback. And
Yeah.
of course, the Olympics were known for that. But
You tend
we're
to pull
talking
for
about
greatness,
yeah. Hey, we're talking about boomer Olympics, though. We're talking maybe the 70s, the 60s, Mexico City. The guy that I think I first really learned anything from by listening to an interview was Bill Toomey. Does that name ring a bell with you at
Yeah,
all?
I know who Bill Toomey is. It was decathlon, correct?
Right. Won a gold medal in the decathlon in Mexico City in 1968. And I saw him after, and of course, the decathlon
Hmm.
back then, particularly because Americans. You had Bob Mathias from years and years ago, before my time, but I knew about him, and
Yeah.
other great American athletes that had won the decathlon or made good runs at the
Yeah.
decathlon. And so Toomey
Rayford
was
Johnson. That was one I was going to
Rayford
think.
Johnson,
Yeah.
yeah, and but Bill Toomey was really being celebrated and going on all the talk shows, and I think it was
Hmm.
on the afternoon, that old Mike
Yeah.
Douglas show, and he was talking about how he and his coach had figured out, and I don't think there was much research to support it then, a lot of research now, that upper body work helped your speed, which doesn't seem like it would. Doesn't seem like
Yeah.
your arms would help your running speed, but it did,
Yeah.
and that really contributed to him winning the decathlon, the 10 event decathlon.
Yeah.
To this day, apparently incredibly grueling. I have never done it, and my daughter did a heptathlon once and
Yeah.
won it on a high school level. And
Wow.
she, of course, they only have 8 events, and they don't have to pole vault, which
Yeah.
is great because she never pole vaulted. Ron, do you know? Did I ever tell you this? My daughter never pole vaulted because she is literally afraid of heights, and I'm talking like 2 feet off the ground. She has trouble with stairs sometimes. And so that pole vaulting thing was a problem, but it's not a part of the heptathlon. It is part of the decathlon. What are some athletes you remember from back in the Mexico City days?
Well, I don't remember Mexico City. I remember Montreal and Munich the most. And my favorite, I've probably gone back and watched this race a million times. Not literally, just it's fun to say a million. But Dave Waddle, 800 in 1972, the old golf cap and skinny dude. And
running what event? What
800.
800, the 800 meters.
Yeah, yeah. Our old event.
And
the family event.
we love that event. And Dave Waddle. That was and out of nowhere, he was out.
Greatest
to be out
comeback
of it.
since until the 1500 in this last Olympics.
Right.
That was the best one I've seen since Dave Waddle.
Hey, a little known fact: Dave Waddle lives in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh wow!
And I've had several runners over the years. Of course, I've coached track for years. Meet Dave Waddle. I never got a chance to, but I've had a few runners attend. I think it's particularly easy to find him at indoor meets.
Yeah.
And several of my runners have gone up to Memphis, because we're not far from Memphis, to run in indoor meets and met Dave Waddle, who is to those of us who saw him run, I don't know if anybody's much closer to a legend than Dave. I mean, there are a lot of Olympic legends, but Dave Waddle's certainly one of them. One I was going to mention is Bob Seagren from Mexico City. He was the pole vaulter, and became a pretty well-known actor after his athletic days were over. I remember he was on Soap. He played a character on the old Soap.
I was going to say he did something quite historical.
So. He was just always
Billy Crystal. He and Billy Crystal were the first gay couple in television history.
So you don't remember anything about Mexico City, huh?
I was only 3, so
Bob Beamon breaking the world record in the long jump, and a lot of folks.
I've seen the little clip many times.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, Bob Beamon's celebration was better than the long jump. I mean, pretty much one long jump looks like any other, but Bob Beamon
I couldn't believe it.
It was like a foot and a half past the world record.
Yeah.
But now they've since discovered. Science has discovered, at least as far as they know, that of course the air's thinner in Mexico City, which on a sprint event, shouldn't really. Yeah, actually, there's less air resistance when you're running down the runway, and then when you jump as well. But they've also discovered that gravity varies, not by much, but by a little, according to where you are on the planet, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
and I mean, if you had a magnet, I guess that was just roughly cut out of. Whatever they make what do they make magnets out of anyway? It would, if it was roughly
magnesium. I don't know.
But there it goes. We're going to get a note about this. We're going to get a note about magnets.
Well, it's like when you touch something, a lot of times it gets magnetized. And I know when I'm unscrewing stuff, or those things will stick to it. Hey,
you become
make an electromagnet all day long.
You're a little bit of a superhero there for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But Beeman probably had a little gravity that most people didn't have to pull if you were at sea level, plus the thin air, plus a heck of a jump, and
Yeah.
one of the best celebrations ever. The guy just kind of floated around after he did it and jumped
Yeah.
and fell down and jumped up again. It was incredible. And a lot of people have seen video of it. I don't know. What are some other things I remember just watching it. I remember having an old black and white set. I remember watching.
Yeah.
We're not talking really about the Winter Olympics right now, but I will say I particularly remember the Winter Olympics, which
Yeah.
used to
I
be in the
enjoyed those
same
well,
year.
still do,
Yeah, and all those figure skaters, which used to be in the same year as the Summer Olympics. So
Yeah.
you just had like this Olympic year, and
The speed skating was always really interesting to me because I remember those guys were really good. When you said about Bob Seger, it made me think about, and the speed skaters, it made me think about the old ABC show that would come on in the summertime, the Superstars.
yeah, sure.
And those guys, because back then, they didn't make a lot of money, because track guys had to keep their
day job,
amateur status, so they kept them broke all the time.
How stupid! I could do 20 minutes on amateur status. It was phonied up from the get-go.
Exactly.
Those of you out there who's still celebrating amateurism, go look it up. If you're still for it after you look it up, there's no hope for you. But anyway,
I know. They where was I going? Oh yeah, the Superstars. Well, anyway,
right. My bad.
I remember that. No, it's okay. I remember the speed skaters were always really strong bike riders because they had those huge legs and they could just, they just hang back with everybody, come to the last lap.
Yeah.
Dude would just, it looked like they, lit a rocket. They just blow everybody away because they had legs like Earl Campbell,
Yeah. And you wonder how
thighs,
You wonder how fast they really could have been. I'm thinking not very, just because they had so much leg to carry.
Yeah, they just had that power.
Yeah, but they were ripped, and particularly down in the lower leg. I think about too when I think about the Olympics is Jimmy Carter, 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Olympics are supposed to be in Russia, and instead of looking for some political solution to whatever kind of mess he'd gotten everybody into, he just decided we'll just boycott the Olympics. All those guys that worked for 4 straight years and have a window maybe of maybe 2 Olympics, possibly 3 if you're a superb athlete. And we'll just take one of them away. We just won't send our guys to go to the Olympics. And I will promise you, no matter. And folks, a lot of folks have some good feelings about Jimmy Carter, and that's fine.
I don't.
But I don't either because I'm in sympathy with the Olympic athletes because a couple of the guys. That was right when I was, had just graduated from college. I knew, as far as a competitor, I knew a couple of people to say hi to them that were on the Olympic team, and they didn't get to go.
Yeah,
they didn't get to go at all. And like you said, they were amateurs. They were sacrificing who knows how much money because they were taking menial jobs so they could. Not have to move away from their coaches and various reasons if you're taking jobs to be an athlete, and they don't get to go. They just you guys don't get to go. I still get to do all my stuff. I still get to. They play Hail to the Chief when I come in the room, and everybody is kissing up to me because I'm the pro. But you don't get to do your thing, and really, and we won't even make a point. There won't even be a point made. But I'll make some kind of a point in my head. And but I doubt there's anybody on that Olympic team that Jimmy Carter would be safe in a room with them. That's my thought. And even now, they would go.
Bitter Olympic memories. What could be more bitter than the Soviet win over the U.S. basketball team in 1972? Where they had to restart the game. What was it? 3 or was it 4 times?
Three times. They just basically Soviets needed a basket to win.
They just restarted until they won, and
they just did it until the Russians.
I love that the Americans never accepted those silver medals. Put in their wills, if I die, do not take the medal.
Yeah.
And when you die, you do not. Your descendants do not. Nobody gets that medal. and it
and
still sits in a vault.
if there's anybody here who doesn't remember that, or anybody listening who in up on it, we can't really get into all the nuances of it, except to say that the United States was blatantly cheated by the officials in that game, and the Soviet Union, on paper, won the game, and there was a lot of bitterness, as there should have been.
It's number one in my book, the most egregious officiating thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I've never
Nothing
seen.
beats it. I've seen a lot of bad stuff. That
Yeah,
was number one.
right.
Nothing's ever replaced it. It's still the worst.
That's what I was going to say. I've seen some bad things from time to time, but that was bad over and over and over and over, to the point that you go, oh, I get it. They're going to get to shoot.
It was so bad that to heck with sportsmanship. There was no point of sportsmanship when it's like that.
Right. And I don't
you don't shake hands. You don't accept your second place. No.
I don't even think that, and I felt terrible. And I never thought basketball should be in the Olympics.
No.
It shouldn't be. I don't think team sports have a place in the Olympics. I don't think any sport where the ultimate in that sport isn't the Olympic gold medal should be in the Olympics.
No.
We've
had this conversation before, and I agree with you. The things that are on like all the time,
right.
Let's let track and gymnastics and swimming shine,
right, and
because that's their time,
and
fencing, and beach volleyball, which is awesome. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I think gold medal in the Olympics might be the ultimate, or one of the ultimates in volleyball. If you ask a volleyball player, in an off year, hey, what's one of your goals? Well, most of them are going to say somewhere in there. It might not be the very top, but one or two, they'd be like, well, I'd like to win a gold medal in the Olympics. That would be pretty cool.
Well, those people in those sports are the best.
Yeah, right.
They absolutely are the best,
Right. And you got their golf. I love golf, but golf?
No,
really?
Golf. No.
You ask
tennis?
A golfer?
No, not tennis.
You wait year after next and just walk out to a golf course and you talk to a bunch of young golfers and say, hey, what are your top 25 things you'd like to accomplish in golf? I promise you, Olympic gold medal is not even on the top 20. And so why is it on the list? Yeah. And I know
there shouldn't be anybody that goes like, I think I'll go win a gold medal this time.
Yeah. No. Right. Like
LeBron James going, I think I'll go win another gold medal. Why not? You know, that's not really, to me, what the Olympics are about.
2 weeks from now, LeBron won't even be able to find his gold medal. He'll be like, where did I put that thing?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Exactly.
Hey, here's some names. Frank Shorter.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually, once again.
Our brother Randy brought up Frank Shorter this afternoon and was talking about, when he came into the stadium, he said that he didn't think that guy was ahead of him, but I'm sorry. That look on his face, he thought, did I miss that guy? Or something, You
got to set it up, Ron. An imposter just outside the stadium jumped under the ropes and came running into the stadium and stole Frank Shorter's applause. And then Shorter came in and he could see this guy on the track running.
Yeah. And he had a look on his face. He was kind of tripping for a second there. You could see him looking like, what?
Yeah. And then I think he did kind of figure out, no, wait a minute now. There was an official outside the stadium that says, way to go, you want a gold medal. And then he starts whatever he had to think of, and he started going, no, I want it. But
he probably noticed the guy didn't have a number and stuff too.
Yeah, right. He's and my guy, Edwin Moses. He's one of the guys that really got messed up. Well, not really messed up, because he did get an opportunity to win 2 gold medals. But Edwin Moses, I'm trying to see. Yeah. His first gold medal was in 76 in Montreal, and then Moscow was in 80. So he didn't get to run, even though he was the greatest 400-meter hurdler. Well, he's the greatest 400-meter hurdler ever been.
Whether he holds the record still or not, he's still great.
Right, because he was so innovative. Yeah. And he's just so creative and just really worked on everything. And then came back in 84 and won the gold medal again, and then won a bronze medal in a subsequent Olympics. So he stayed on top for a long time. And let's see, I've got a note here. He won 122 consecutive
I
race.
knew it was a lot. It was a long time.
And he didn't dodge the competition either. He often ran against the number 2 guys and 3
Yeah.
guys, and just he was the guy that figured it. You get off into the weeds when you start talking about technicalities, but he figured out the mechanics of it, the math of it. He was a math major in college, and I ran against him once. No, well, I didn't. I lined up on the same line that he did on an indoor race.
Yeah.
Just the indoor 600. They didn't run the 400 hurdles indoors, and it was down in Birmingham. And when I was a senior, and we look up, and rumor was Edwin Moses was going to be there, and sure enough, here he comes. He got his sunglasses on. He had all these wooden beads and things that he wore around his wrist, and it was plus he was about 6'3.5", maybe 6'4", and a little taller than I am. And he comes out there and lines up in my heat, and they fired the gun. And that's the last I saw of him. He disappeared. And,
yeah, I was just going to bring up that you, had a few run-ins with greatness with some. Of course, you didn't know Edwin Moses, but you got to be in his proximity.
Right. Well, I said hi to him,
and I think you've met maybe a couple more, haven't you?
Just recently, more recently,
Yeah.
Shelby McEwen, the high jumper, I know fairly well, and Sam Kendricks,
Yeah,
the pole vaulter,
I was thinking you
know
had at least
pretty well.
met Larry Myricks, or at least was around.
Oh yeah, Larry Marks is in our league. Larry
Yeah.
Marks, the long jumper from
Yeah.
Mississippi College, who was maybe the top long jumper in the world in 1980.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to go to Moscow. And by the time he, let's see, I'm looking at my list. Moscow, Los Angeles. Well, at the Los Angeles Olympics, Carl Lewis hadn't really had not. No, Lewis was started in '88. He was 88, 92, 96, I think is how it worked. But Larry Myricks, I mean, it's always a close deal on the long jump. You know, you might win, you might not. But he was far and above everybody else in the 1980 Olympics, and then didn't get to go. But we were in the same league, and I saw him all the time, and spoke to him from time to time. And he's a pretty he was a pretty okay guy at a track meet. Most people are pretty worked up and pretty nervous, and you're not going to get a big conversation out of too many people. But he was friendly enough, and I was. It was something to watch. Any great long jumpers, it's something to watch them. It really is. Or any of these guys. Golly, they're unbelievable in person. They're just unbelievable in person. I don't know who we're leaving out. I actually have a note here about Larry Marks. Joan Benoit, do you remember her?
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Women's marathon, the first American.
Ever women's marathon. I missed the marathon this time. I was going to watch it because I usually watch it, and I forgot to watch it. It was on Sunday morning. It's usually on Sunday morning, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I did not watch it this time. I just couldn't get fired up about it.
No, it's just,
I watched a lot of these.
I have it on the background while other things are going on. But I guess I was too tired this year.
I watched a lot of the Olympics this time, but I didn't catch the marathon, and really I was thinking of, as far as this particular edition. By the way, number 36. I think I've stopped saying our number, but number 36 in our podcast, and our third one on YouTube. Yeah. I was just more thinking, well, what hops to your mind when you think about the Olympics? And I think about watching it on TV. I think about talking about it with people. I do think of some of these performances, but you can look any of these up, and I highly recommend just getting on YouTube and typing in great Olympic performances and going over some of it, because boy, the people who win these gold medals have got to be so excited. They're by the way, when I mentioned Shelby and Sam was a silver medalist in the pole vault this past Olympics, and Shelby was a silver medalist in the high jump. So they're just great. It's nice to even be able to say hi to people like that. And I saw Shelby this summer, as a matter of fact. I was coming out of a coffee shop, and he and his mom were going in, and we talked for a few minutes, and I was really gratified to see him do so well, and Sam as well. I've known Sam since he was 7th grade, maybe. Something like that. We ran against him, and his dad, Scott. I don't know, Carl Lewis. What are your thoughts on Carl Lewis?
Carl Lewis not only was a great champion, though, he sung he's number 1 or 2 in worst Star Spangled Banner singers of all time.
He tried to be a singer for a while. And he just didn't have it in him. Although he's a pretty good coach, from what I understand. He's coached at the University of Houston, which is where he went to college. And the thing, Carl Lewis's mom and dad were track coaches.
Yeah.
So his technique was very very good. And you think people that don't know would think, well, of course he was an Olympic. No, these real talented people sometimes often their technique
Yeah.
is not perfect
Yeah.
because they're so good when they're real young. They're kind of hard to coach because why would they want to change the way they're doing things when
Yeah.
they're
Because
killing
they're
everybody?
killing everybody. Yeah.
And some habits that are kind of bad habits get ingrained. And but Carl Lewis had great habits always. And he was the first guy I saw. He used the little karate chop hands when he was
No.
racing.
Yeah, you made me think about just something you said made me think about Michael Johnson.
Right.
Well, he ran was the
200,
400 and the 200?
400 and the 200. Yeah.
Well,
And
anyway,
won both.
my late mother-in-law loved Michael Johnson. I guess because he was either from Texas or ran in Texas.
Well, he was unique.
Maybe
He
it
had a
was
unique
both.
stride. Oh yeah, he was
But
fun to
she
watch.
loved him, and my mother-in-law was quite the colorful woman in with fashion sense. She liked sparkly stuff now.
Yeah, he wore those gold shoes, like you
But
said.
yeah, she would like buy these white tennis shoes and like paint them up and do stuff. And I remember for those Olympics, she had some gold ones, and she would come over to the house, and every time she was coming over to watch him run, she would wear those gold tennis shoes.
Man, listen, you remind me, double winners, 2-4, the 4-8. Do you remember who the only guy ever to win the 400 and the 800?
No.
Alberto Juantorena from Cuba.
Oh, wow. I remember that. I remember that guy. Yeah.
He was, he did it in the 76 Olympics, and nobody else has ever done it. Ran the 800 and the 400, and it was just unbelievable situation to see somebody do that. And he's got some. Did you just freeze?
No, it's okay. It doesn't matter, seriously. I mean, because you freeze all the time, and that's the good thing about the way this records. It has a clean recording from both sides, so you don't have to worry about it.
Somebody just popped a door behind me. So once again, the professionalism of this podcast just is amazing. Hey, close the door, kid. I've got, we haven't talked about swimming. Mark Spitz.
Oh, yeah. It's funny now. I remember several years back looking up some of Mark Spitz's times and stuff, and like his times are like slower than the women's times now.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hilarious, And running's not really like that, but swimming, swimming is like it's like they keep figuring out different ways to get faster in the water, like different techniques, or it's something that's clearly evolving constantly. Running does to a certain extent, but not like other things have.
Do you remember the picture? I think it was on the cover of Sports Illustrated of Mark Spitz wearing the 7 medals around his neck, and they lined them up so you could see it was one of the great. I've seen renditions of that. Yeah, people have done that with like 2 and 3. With like high school meets, you almost always see somebody doing that. If they've won multi-medals at a high school meet, they'll line them up and put them on. And so that was as influential culturally as anything probably ever done. And do you remember Janet Evans?
That sounds a little bit familiar, but not extremely.
She was in the 88-92 Olympics. I think the 88 Olympics were the ones where the Chinese women were all steroided up, and she went out and beat them. She stands up. I remember watching that Olympics, and Janet Evans, for some reason, she'd caught my attention and my wife's attention, and because I was I married then? 92 I was. It might have been 92 that this happened. And
I was married
because I remember Julie talking about it. Well, I remember Julie talking about it, and I got married in 87. So you don't tell anybody I didn't remember what year I got married. So it was both. I think it was 88. And
once Linda and I forgot our anniversary completely for like a week.
Oh no!
Both of us were like, "Oh yeah."
It's okay if you both do it.
Yeah.
If one of you does it.
Yeah.
That's not because that's one of you's forgetting, and
we
the
were
other
like,
one.
Hey, that's pretty funny. We thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. But if it's just one, there's one's missing and the other's over there steaming. For
you're in trouble.
When are they going to realize? So now you thought of it. But we were watching. She had caught our attention for some reason. We were watching her, and she's just like standing. I think she's like 5'8" or 5'9".
Yeah.
And the Chinese had like these 2 women standing on either side of her, and they dwarfed her. And then she just jumped in the water and outswam them. It was incredible. It's
Yeah.
I guess you can get so big, maybe you just sink down in the water a little bit. I don't know, but at any rate, a lot of things. I'm trying to see. Oh, what about Bud Greenspan? I had a special note about Bud Greenspan. You know who that is?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe he was he like the sports producer of the Olympics or
Well,
something like
he
that?
was he made
Or
all
the
these documentaries. I'm sure he was
Oh
closely
yeah,
associated
okay,
with the Olympics.
documentary. Okay, yeah.
He, he's in,
I knew it was some kind of cinematography director or something.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he has some of the best. That's something. If anybody there listening is a fan, I know Hubert. I almost said his last name, but Hubert, one of our listeners, is loves documentaries. And Hubert, if you have not seen any of Bud Greenspan's documentaries, you need to find them. There's at least 20 that are based on Olympic athletes and mostly
I've
track and
seen a
field.
lot of those.
Yeah. He has done. They're just
They
it's hard
used
to
to
describe,
show
but
them
they're
a
very good.
lot in the late 70s, early 80s on
Right,
PBS.
right,
Because that's how
right.
I learned a lot about, a lot about Rayford Johnson and some of those guys that I had never seen. I'd only read about, but never really seen them run or
Oh,
anything.
he was the original kind of up close and personal guy.
Yeah,
Except he did it for
yep.
entire films. For an entire documentary. So Hubert, get out there and give me some feedback. He's probably seen them because he's seen a lot of documentaries and a lot of real good ones. And
Well, I can
this,
remember the one person that of course, not as many people remember because the one that came after her was a little more famous for a little longer. But the one that really popularized gymnastics was Olga Korbut for
Olga
the
Korbut.
Soviet
Well,
Union, which made it so incredible because we were like deadly enemies with them,
right.
and she was like this little. She was just so darn cute and personable that everybody just fell in love with her, and she
Well,
even came over and toured America.
and
After
then
the Olympics.
what is it? About the time she faded out, Nadia Comaneci comes
Yeah,
along, and then Scruggs, the U.S. girl.
yeah, that got did injured in '84. Yeah, and did
And,
that ball. Mary Lou Retton, of course.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
when it
Mary
really
Lou
all
Retton.
started. Those,
Right.
well, they were the first ones that were really good that were
Yeah.
American. Of course, early one was Kathy Rigby, and she didn't really do anything.
Right. She was just
She got a little more
known.
famous for playing Peter Pan on Broadway.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. That's once again who that was Rigby, Kathy Rigby.
yeah,
Um, I know one other guy. I guess before we wrap it up, and I guess we're about to anyway. But Dick Fosbury,
yeah. Another
Fosbury
innovator.
flop, 1976. Ron, can you imagine sitting in your house one day and going? By the way, he was a high jumper, and he
Yeah.
won the gold medal because he invented a brand new way of high jumping.
Well, it was almost out of. It's kind of funny when you go back and think about it because I don't know when they stopped having them land in sawdust, but I don't think he would have invented it if he'd have been the sawdust jumper.
No, that's true. But they weren't landing in sawdust. But he's the guy that started going over, backwards is the best way to describe it. And he just kind of came up with it one day, and next thing you know, he's winning the Olympic gold, and it was his only goal because everybody was jumping that way.
Yeah.
4 years later, and
that's the way everybody jumps now.
And you never see anybody doing the old fashioned. They called it a roll.
Scissor
You
kick
went over with
and
your
all that
stomach.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So your stomach next to the bar.
Yeah.
And they should make a movie about Dick Fosbury, and maybe they have, and I never saw it. But
yeah, who knows?
It's just what. Imagine sitting in a house and go, you know what? I think there might be a better way to run. and you walk out there, an old man, or I walk out there, an old man, and you run a world record time in the 100, and you go, I'm going to keep this under my hat, run one race, just qualify for the Olympic trials, then I'm going to show up running, using my hand and one hand and 2 feet, and I'm going to beat everybody. and then you do it. It's just ridiculous. That's exactly what happened to Dick Fosbury. He just came up with, I think I could do it this other way. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I just jumped the world record in practice. And, crazy. You got a song of the week?
No, I don't have a song of the week, but I have a clip of the week. I have all queued up and ready to go here.
What do you got?
Yeah, I'm hoping I can show it correctly.
Okay. Well, nothing will beat that Matt Dillon getting shot last week.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let me get it started.
I can't see anything.
Well, it's okay. Let's see if I can get it right. All right. I can always edit this. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see, who's that running? Who is that guy?
Oh,
Oh,
no,
man.
no, that's me. Stop. Put that down. Put that away.
The thrill of victory.
Put that away. Yeah. The thrill of victory. The agony of getting killed. My granddaughter's over here on the side, and she's going, "Is that actually you?" And it kind of is.
That's my favorite Olympian.
Yeah, boy. Stop doing that kind of stuff. Well, my song of the week is Dan Fogelberg, Tim Weisberg from 1978, The Power of Gold. 24, went to number 24 in the charts. And
That's a good one.
yeah, I don't know why it doesn't show up during the Olympics. Dan Fogelberg did Run for the Roses for the Kentucky Derby, and you could easily use this for the Olympics, but for some reason they didn't. So
there's a few songs with gold. That's Gold Dust Woman.
Yeah.
Gold people out there turning music into gold.
Not as many as you'd think, though.
Mm.
You know, not as many as you'd think. Sister Golden Hair, which isn't quite the same thing in America. But Ron, that's about it for the Olympics. That's what I remember about the Olympics. It was fun. I think the real.
Well, see, that's why I got my Star Spangled shirt on.
Star Spangled Banner.
I got my kind of Texas Spangled hat.
Sure. And because we're the boomers, we're the ones that really embrace the Olympics. Television brought it to us, and now television is taking it away by splintering it into a million pieces. And there's so many other things to watch that a lot of folks don't see it. But we boomers, we remember the Olympics.
We do. All right.
Okay.